Hey, what's up, creators? This is John, and you have once again come across the Sketch Podcast. I am here, as always, with the eminent Robert Hickey and Bill Nichols, and we have a whole lot to talk about this weekend. This time out, we are going to talk about how to set up your studio. Actually, that's going to be a multi-part conversation, but right now, we want to talk a little bit about some of the podcasts we've listened to. And for that, I think we'll start off with Bob.
Hey, yeah, well, I guess we got an announcement to make sort of too here. Is that I guess officially we're going to be part of the comicrelated.com's podcast family. Spoke with Chuck. We'll have a website over there. Start letting the people who come to Comic Related know about our podcast, and I'm excited. I think it's great. It's happening sooner than I thought it would, or had hoped. So it sort of got me looking at other podcasts more urgently and seeing what some of the more popular ones doing. So I did listen to the related recap that Chuck and John and you, Brant, I believe, right? Do that.
Yes, usually it's me, Chuck, and Brant.
I listened to a couple of those, which I usually do. I just had gotten out of the routine lately. Enjoyed the podcast, the way it was put together, and then I listened to iFanboy, and I happened to listen to one that was episode 250. And wow, I don't know what kind of hits they're getting, but I know they get a ton of hits. But it's different.
What was their topic this time?
They picked one comic, and I couldn't even tell you what that comic was. They spent more time drinking to celebrate their 250th issue, and it was long. It was a long podcast, and they spent more time answering their emails and stuff like that, which is cool. Right. I like that part of it, and that's sort of things I was looking for. Is what are they doing? How are they handling it? It's funny that we've sort of fell into some of that. So doing a little research. We're going to have to step it up now that we're going to officially with Comic Related make sure we present ourselves and them very well. So that was my podcast stuff. Bill, if you're not listening to them, you need to download a few. When you're inking, they're good to listen to.
No, there are a bunch of really good ones out there. We're really good friends with the guy from Comic Geek Speak.
I gotta listen to that. I haven't listened to them.
Yeah, theirs is more conversational as well. The way iFanboy is, and they're just a really funny, great bunch of guys that we kind of hang out with at cons when we go there. There's a couple more, and I'm completely blanking right now. There's a lot that are very genre related too. Like there's a Doctor Who one that's completely all they talk about is Doctor Who. It's called Radio Free Skaro.
Oh yeah.
That's a good one to listen to if you're into Doctor Who stuff.
Right.
So yeah, and of course when Tech TV died and became G4. Leo Laporte kind of went off onto the computer, and now he does regular technology podcasts, that are extremely popular.
Oh, cool. Now is that just
there's a lot of stuff depending on what.
Is that like him solo?
Is that
like him just talking solo about tech stuff, or?
Yeah, I think he does interviews too. I think he takes calls and questions and. Essentially what he was always doing on Tech TV.
Yeah.
But now it's become more of a literally computer based sort of thing.
Right.
So.
Well, I know a funny thing.
Pretty cool.
Is that this podcast really runs over an hour with three of us chatting, and I recently cut one for the site claysway.com that I said, I'll do a solo one. I wrapped that sucker up in 8 minutes. I was like, oh no, we're going to have to start planning these out a little bit better. Yeah, it's amazing when you're by yourself. You're really going to have a script, a plan, everything organized. Because if not, you can just blow through your thoughts quick. Or maybe I don't have very many thoughts. Okay, change the subject here.
Well, it was always kind of funny because we didn't always do the recap together.
Right.
it used to be in 3 parts,
Uh-huh.
and we would each do our parts separately. So, yeah, my own little part, even with my constant editorializing on the stories I was talking about, was still much more, I guess, concise would be the nice word for
Mm-hmm.
it than just our gab sessions, which people prefer the gab
Yeah,
sessions if you
I
want to
like
know
the
the truth.
conversationalist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
and you get
mean,
to play off other people
Mhm.
though. So
exactly,
Well, I
yeah.
think that's
and that goes off in tangents.
yeah, we do that a lot. But I think that's
Well, that's its own 4 podcast for you,
well,
but
you guys are sort of crazy over there. Um,
well, yeah.
I think the cool thing about this is you've got 3 friends who's been doing this for a long time, and we have a focus on sharing our art. So that's sort of where this podcast, I think, is building its own niche. So, okay, and
Yeah.
let's see. Let's start off with what we're going to discuss this week.
We are discussing how to set up your workspace. How to set up your studio, or if you don't have the room to commit to the studio, how to set up a dedicated area for you to do your work.
Cool.
So you have set up many a studio in your life. I know Bill has set up many, many studios in various locations in his life. So I dare say you both have some really good insights on this.
It's sort of funny because in the past 2 years, I've set up 1, 2, 3. I've been in 4 locations. And I'm waiting for the office to get finished to finally settle into a home office to do all this out of. So it'll be 5 within 2.5
Wow.
years. Yeah. A lot of moving. Actually, most of my office right now is inside of a pod. And I have a basic setup here at the house in a spare bedroom, but it's also shared with everything else that my wife puts in here. And the weekly
Right.
comics are getting piled higher and higher and on top of scanners. And, when I first set this up, the wife says, I have 3 computers set up in here working in a space that is about a 5 by 8. She said it looked like NASA. Well, now it looks like NASA with about 2 months worth of comic books piled on top of it. So, not a whole lot of room.
Well, yeah,
But that's just the computer
not
stuff.
right. Not your last store, but the one prior, the
Yeah, the
larger
big
one.
store.
I was always real surprised how small your office was back there because you've got that must have come across on the Mayflower drawing table
Yeah, you like that drawing table?
in there, that thing is
I
huge,
bought
man.
that at
It's
an
like,
auction at a tech school. And it was funny because my
yeah.
wife was working there. So all the teachers and
Uh-huh.
everybody knew I was coming in just to buy that table. Nobody would bid about against me. I got it for $20. Yeah, it's a
Nice.
huge
That's
commercial
incredible.
drafting
Yeah, that thing
table.
looks like it was made out of
Yeah.
looks like it was made out of a single sequoia or something.
But I guess the funny thing at the big store was I knew how much I was paying for square footage there. And
Uh-huh.
it's like my office loan's going to cost me $500 a month, for this little office. So
Wow.
yeah, it's just I couldn't justify a whole lot more than what I had, which wasn't a whole lot more than what I
Right.
had at the store previously. Bill, you're working at your house right now, correct?
Right.
And we were just previously discussing how your art area is set up separately from your computer area.
Well, mostly that's an outlet situation.
Okay.
Circuit breakers and all that.
Mhm.
So at some point, if I can get my brother in here maybe to help me reconfigure things, then I will be in a position where I can, or if I get an iPod or something, then I just clip it
There you
on
go.
and
Yeah.
go. I can ink
And walk away.
right, or go out and mow,
Yeah.
or do something. But yeah, right now it's set up for necessity. It's not really the way I want it. Eventually, it will be,
Right.
but it involves a lot of moving and reconfiguring and stuff. But it works for what it is now. So
Yeah. I have a similar problem. Because I finally found a place in the house that, is going to be completely dedicated to being my office. But The two problems with it right now is, one, it's the only room in the entire house without air conditioning.
Oh,
So it's too bloody hot to sit in there right
right.
now.
Yeah. Been there.
Secondly, yeah. Yeah, I remember your basement studio very well, Bill.
Oh no, the
My-
basement was fine because the
Yeah.
air conditioning and the furnace were right there. So
Oh, that's true,
You know.
yeah.
so I was good to go.
Uh,
It's right now that's the kicker.
Yeah, the second thing, my entire computer setup that I do, this, that I do podcasting, that I do comic related from, is 3 rooms away
Oh,
from my studio space. And right now, there's just no room, and, it's too unbearable to sit in
right.
there until it gets cool enough, to actually put everything
Right.
together. Plus the fact that I'm, trying to get rid of a whole lot of floppies.
Mm-hmm.
A whole lot of single issue comics at the Champion City Con. So come on down and pick them
There
up.
you go.
But
Nice plug.
that too. Yeah, thank you. I'm here all week. But it's, trying to get all that together has been a little tough.
Right.
Because I finally, after all these years and after annoying my poor wife with my comics piled in different rooms, I finally managed to get most of it all in one space.
Mhm. Like I said, I'm building an office, so space is not a factor because we actually have an unfinished basement in this house. I've been cleaning it out, and it's going to be totally finished. It's going to have a good size office, and then there's a quote unquote what my wife calls boys' room, but truthfully, it's going to also be a meeting room, a gaming area for the guys, for my boys or for the family or whatever. So, my kiss up for her is I just recently found out that she really loves pinball. So I will be purchasing a pinball machine here to justify the boys' room.
Nice.
And that's not boys' room as far as bathroom. So I've been really thinking about the office. And in this office, I'm going to have one area that is for art. One side of it is going to be for art, and there's going to be the Humongo art table, as you said. That sucker's like 4 foot long, 3 foot tall. It's huge. Along with
How heavy is that thing?
well,
by the way?
luckily it breaks down to 3 pieces, so it's not bad
Oh,
when
okay,
you break
good.
it down. But yeah, you do not want to try to move
Right.
it without breaking it down. I'm going to have actually water in a sink area right there next to it for cleaning out brushes, for cleaning out airbrush, for whatever I need water for. And then I'll have a set of cabinets and bookcases there for original artwork and supplies and stuff. On the other side, because of this podcast, because a future project we've been talking about is the video cast, is I'm setting up a small art table that I have set up with lights and a video camera just for taping artists to come in and do video
Oh, nice.
tutorials. And right off from that is going to be a round table to do the podcast off of. Like I said, I have 4 computers, so setting up individual computers isn't a problem. And somewhere in there is going to be the whole desktop, my whole desktop area, multi-scanners and tablets and stuff. So
Right.
probably be right dab in the middle of everything. Luke and I are going to start playing around with doing a sort of like this podcast, but an art show, like a radio show for an hour. And he wants to come in and run it with me. So the concept is that we both have mics, or if somebody stops by or in the area and they want to do an interview, but I'll have dual mics set up so you can actually sit there and do podcasting or taping. That's the plan. Now, it's going to take a lot of space because I still need a ton of bookcases for all the books and art supplies and original artwork and everything else that I have collected over the years. Good thing it's got a decent sized basement in it. The boys' room might get smaller and smaller as I need more and more space for my office. So we'll see. Yeah.
You might take over the entire boys' room.
It might just become Dad's office downstairs. I
Right.
think some things to really think about is what you're going to do in your office.
Yeah, I was going to say, we probably need to break it down as into what do you need? What should you really have in your office to make it a functional area for you to create
Right.
art.
Well, I know right now what I have, quote unquote, as an office is just the computers and scanners and tablets in one room. If I'm doing artwork, I take over the kitchen just until, I get everything moved. So
Right.
what's important to me to be able to sit down and do is the computer. So that was more important to get set up than to try to slide a table in here, which would have been impossible. I've been
Yeah.
at other places where I've set an office where it was important I had a table. So I've somehow fitted that humongo table along with my desktop and everything into an area that's smaller. So yeah, I think you need to consider, are you going to do digital work there? Then, like Bill said, you got to make sure you got enough electric. You got power surges and protectors on everything. And that you have what you need. You got internet connections and everything. Set it up. If you're going to do hands-on illustration there, what are you going to need? You're going to need water. You're going to need sink. Because if you're illustrating, except for penciling, I guess, but still it would be nice.
Right.
If you're inking, washing, painting, anything like that, it's nice to have something convenient, a water source that's convenient. What other kind of business office? Wow. You just put that anywhere, I would believe. A desk, a computer. I don't know. My wife's wanting one, maybe. About talked her into taking a garage that we have here and converting it into an office to run the Claysway stuff out of. So, but I get my office. I get my office first, though.
Right.
But yeah, I would think you need to decide what's important for you and what you're trying to accomplish in that area. Is it a day job? Okay. If it's a day job, you don't want to be stuck in a dark corner in a basement with no visible outlet to outside. I wouldn't want to anyway. I shouldn't say you don't want to. Some people are fine. Pick a room in the middle of the house, throw it in there. They're good all day long. Even here, as small of an area I have a window straight out my backyard. I got an acre out there. So I can look straight out that back window right there. I can see the squirrels, the deer, or whatever's walking around out there. I like that. It gives me, if I stress relief, if I'm just sitting here working on something that's not working, I can just stare outside for a minute and just, shake it. Now, the big office that you were talking about, my office was totally enclosed. No windows or nothing. That bothered me more than probably any other office I've stayed at. I find myself constantly walking out of that office to get that relief. So I was actually...
However, no, I was going to say, however, for some people that might have been ideal because it limits the distraction.
Well, yeah, but for me, what added distractions to it was having the comic shop up in front. So
the constant ding, ding, ding of the door.
Well, it was just me constantly walking away, talking to customers, and before I knew it, I was out of the office for 2 hours when I had paid employees there to take care of the store. I didn't even need to be there, and so it was this isn't working out. So honestly, since I moved back in partially into the house, I've gotten more work done than I have since we moved out of the original store 2 years ago.
Right.
2.5 years ago. So, but yeah.
Well, Bill, you're a hands-on artist. What do you need in the studio?
Well, the one you were talking about that was in the basement, surrounded by comics. I don't know. Somehow that was comforting, and if I ever just wanted to take a break, I could, because I had a sofa there, and I could just sit and read for a while. And I had plenty of light. I had my music if I needed to listen, and I need that. I hate quiet. I really do. I'm okay with it, but as far as working, because my mind's going all at so many different directions at one time. Like in college, I did better work in the student grill than I did in the library. I would get the books at the library and then go to the student grill, because all that static or all that commotion around me forced me to have tunnel vision toward whatever I had in front of me, and I'm still that way. And having music on helps. TV doesn't help. TV's too distracting, but I have a TV up here, so I mean it's a multifunctional room. But you know, at some point I will have shelves, and that's really the biggest thing right now. Is if I had shelves up, I would have, what trades I have and some of the art books that I have up, and once again be surrounded by, if I want to take a break or if I want to draw inspiration from, some of the books that we have. Like one of the books I really, really love, and I did a review in Sketch a couple of issues ago, was the book from Dark Horse that showed 100 artists in their studio or their workspace or something like that. I love that book. And I mean, to me, that's just awesome because it sort of gets you in the mind of an artist, or it kind of puts you in that frame of mind where you can sort of visualize that artist in their workspace. And it kind of goes with the whole idea of not just knowing how somebody does an illustration or paints a certain way or whatever, but it's why. Why do they choose this at this time? And why do they do this line? Why do they go through this kind of process? And maybe it has something to do with having windows and they can see out and they're inspired by nature. And it sort of gets you in that artist's head a little bit, And but I love that book, and I had a couple of years ago when I took over Sketch, I wanted to do that, show some of the different artists in their studio or show some of the studios. And Tim Townsend sent me pictures of his, and he's since redone it. I mean, it looks awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it is Tim Townsend. So, and there were a couple other people, and I mean, they were all different, and they were all equally awesome. And yeah, I just think that's an added benefit to see how somebody else works. I wouldn't want somebody to see how I work. It's just cluttered, but and it's like I said, it's not ideal, and it won't be ideal until I get those other things done. But some people some artists I've seen have sofas in their studio, so if they need a nap, it's right there. I've seen a lot of sofas. Yep. So I would probably have
a lot of those guys have games too, video games, so they'll get away from the drawing board or computer and kick back on the sofa and play some video games. My ultimate always was the header of BlueLinePro.com, where I put that force across there with all those little windows. One day I want a studio that has nothing but windows out to a big forest.
Right.
Just woods, peaceful.
You need like a big bay window.
Just multiple windows. I don't care, but just one whole side of the studio, nothing but windows, and just nothing out there but forest. I just
nice.
That's 10 years. I'm going to the lake. So come on, listeners, listen to these podcasts. I gotta get going.
Yeah. Gotta get on that lake.
Well, I once saw a picture of Bernie Wrightson's, and his has got big windows. At least the one they had photographed him in, and I'm like, wow, that's just, to me. I think your studios are around how you grew up. And needless to say, I grew up down on a farm or a small little town, lots of open space, that's where I feel my most relaxed, my most creative. I feel in that atmosphere. I mean, I'll go out back and set, like, I had a problem in a current story that I'm writing. The editor came back to me and says, this one little thing won't work. I'm like, yeah, but the alternative I really don't like. So, I sort of went out back and just, was running the whole story through my head. It was real peaceful back there. It was early, and wow, it just started clicking. And not only did it click, but a huge section of that whole story theme concept started clicking from that point. So it was amazing. So that's what I like. I liked open space. Now, people who grew up in cities, they may not need that.
Yeah, I was about to say.
They may not need that.
Yeah, I'm a city kid. Having all those woods around me would freak me out.
Bears, big bears.
Big bears out there.
Yeah, I am too, though. But having lived in a rural,
right?
If I had my choice, to be honest, I'd go to the countryside. I would have a house that had that studio, but having at some point sort of sketched out what my studio would be if I were to design a house, it would have open windows inside where I could sort of keep, where it wasn't totally open, where I was, somebody else was watching, but where I could see my kids
Right.
really, and that was,
Right.
and then you sort of felt like you could be part of it, but you still had the isolation that you needed to concentrate on what you were doing. So,
Right.
but yeah, I'd go for and plus there was a deck,
Mm-hmm.
just for like Bob said, because a lot of times I just walked around our yard. I did it for health, just to, for exercise, but that for a while there, that
Right.
became my daily devotional kind of, and I had a lot of good ideas doing that too. So, and I worked a lot of problems out, but I can't really do that around here while I'm living in town. So
Right.
I would definitely
Too
pick the
much
countryside.
activity.
Yeah, and neighborhood dogs and what have you, and too much traffic.
Right.
So yeah, I would definitely go for the country. A little bit, the best of everything, really. I mean, best of both worlds. Activity inside, but outside, whatever.
I've always said, as long as
Nature.
I got UPS cable, I'm good.
And good Chinese delivery.
Yes. Well, I don't know. I might give that up if it means getting farther out in the woods. But yeah, I mean, with the internet nowadays, that's working with creators, working with you guys. We're not all together. We're split up.
Yeah.
What?
Well, that sort of brings
did
up
I
a
just
question,
break-
too. We're not in the
break?
same room?
Did I just startle?
You just destroyed the
Oh,
magic.
I'm sorry.
We're sorry, listeners, that you destroyed the magic of
I'm sorry.
podcasting.
We're all in the same little
We don't
room.
all sit in the same room. We
We're all
just make Bill
describing
sit in a little box
completely.
so he sounds like he's far
Yeah.
away.
It's true.
Yeah.
But it's true. It's really true. Let him out of the box.
Please.
That does bring up a question, though. Now, with the internet, I remember Bill had some, but I know you, Bob, had 1 million reference books.
Yeah, I still do.
Lining walls at one
I
time.
have even more.
With the internet, is all that necessary now?
It's there again. I think it depends on the
think so?
artist and their age. In the future artists, no. And still, I do a ton of my research and everything on the internet. But man, actually, I'm going to start writing some art book reviews for SketchMagazine.net. And something about holding a whole hardcover of Adam Hughes artwork from his early DC work to his end is just amazing to hold it and look at it and look at the flatter coloring that they did earlier and now this painted Photoshop work he does now. It's just, it's just the books, the reference books. And you're right. I mean, I'll walk through and I'm like, cool, that's a book on forest. Wow, that's pretty. I'll pick it up, because at some point in time I might need something like that. I probably do a little less right now because I really don't have enough space to put them. But boy, when I get that new office built, I'm gonna have all kinds of space until I fill it up. But yeah, I think it's the reference books and stuff. You need to allow time, and space for them because you're gonna need them. If you're an artist, you're gonna need some reference. And don't get me wrong, a lot of that can be done on the internet. If you're an inker, you want to look at how other people are inking, especially if you're just starting off. You're going to need samples of their work. You're going to need samples in your hands. You're going to need samples of their work blown up to the size that you're doing your work, So there again, do you have a copier in your office or a scanner that will blow out and print 11 by 17s? Or it's something we can talk about is how to get around that. I just thought of a way to get around it, but we'll save that for another podcast. If you're going to ink, you like the line quality and the style and everything that another inker is doing, you're going to have to see their thickness. And I'm stating that because I just recently inked, and Bill and I was talking about this the other day. I haven't inked in a while. I've been moving businesses and selling businesses and offices. I hadn't inked in a while. I grabbed a brush, and wow, was I shaken. I was shocked. I mean, in all the years I've inked, I've never had a problem sitting down inking with a tool. So I had to put the brush down and get the quill out. But then with a quill, you ink so much thinner. It's just natural to ink thinner. So I had to really pay attention to the thickness of my lines and look at some other work out there, make sure I was pulling off thick enough lines. So yeah, colors, you can get a lot of that on the computer, but still having some product, looking at things are made in print. So yeah, I think when you build your office, you need an area for reference books and tutorials, and it's get real. We're all talking about comics here. We all love comics. Digital comics are coming, but we gotta have print comics in our hands too. You can't have your wife sell them all, John.
No. Trust me. Everything I'm getting rid of in soft cover is coming back in graphic novel.
Yeah, and that's
all the single issues I may be getting rid of are definitely returning in compilations.
That's sort of what I've done. I keep the floppies of the books that I figure DC may never collect. There's some Legion runs that I don't know how they would collect it because the storylines are so twisted and long, and there's some Nightwings that they didn't collect, and then now they're not going to go reprinting the graphic novels either. So I don't. So yeah, there's certain things like that I'll keep, on floppy.
Oh yeah, there's some I'll never sell. Like I have the full run of Starman in floppies. I've got all the graphic novels. Now I'm buying all the omnibuses. So
you like that story a little bit?
I've definitely drunk. Oh, I love that story a little bit. So I've definitely drunk the Kool-Aid as far as Starman goes. I'm getting everything that comes out. And there's a few like that. There's it's just one of those major runs that really spoke to me, and I kind of like a run that has a finite end.
Even though there's a Starman on Justice League right now, right? The blue alien dude with the jewel in his chest or something, Michael.
Yeah, actually there is, and he really kind of came to his own in the regular series. Right. So I like that.
I read it sporadically.
He's not my favorite in the Justice League right now, but
I read it sporadically.
Yeah, I'm much more on Congarilla.
Oh yeah, I love Congarilla. But I've been picking up those hardcovers too, so I've been enjoying reading them. So I hadn't read them all, and I love Tony Harris's work too.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I really like James Robinson's writing. I really like Tony Harris's art.
Yeah, he's got an art book.
Having them both in the same place like that.
I gotta check and see if his art book ever came out. I know it was scheduled, but I don't remember getting it. So I figured it'd be.
Oh, I'd love to see that.
He was talking to me not this past Charlotte because I didn't make it, but the Charlotte before about it. That he wants to be interviewed on Sketch to promote his art book. So yeah, that might be maybe not only get him on an issue of Sketch, but also cut part of it for the interview podcast. Yeah.
Yep.
All right. So yeah, back to studios. You got a lot of room for books, reference materials. The cool thing is comics is they make these comic houses now. You can buy like short boxes that slide inside a drawer. I guess they're called drawer boxes. Shoot, you stack enough of those up, you can put an art table on top of them. Multi-purpose. Store your comics and draw on them. And I actually plan on using some of those housing in my office to build an area. So the nice thing is they slide. They slide in and out, easy reference, easy to get to certain books if you're looking for.
They're much more like almost a paper file cabinet.
Oh yeah. That's just like what they are. And the new ones are a lot better braced up, so you can stack them 4 or 5 high, and they don't get all wicked and twisted and stuff. But yeah, they work real nice in an office. But hey, we just built a studio.
Nice. Next time we definitely need to go into storage for your supplies.
Let's do it now. Like what?
I was thinking, I've seen different people's studios. Some people have everything like meticulously put away. Everything has its own little spot. There are tons of things out there like I've seen really cool drawer systems for artists. Little multicolored things on wheels, that you can put different things in. So I guess what works best for you guys? Do you need to be able to see everything you have right in front of you while you're doing your work? Or are you one of those people that can use a product, put it back, grab the next one, use it, put that back, What works best for you?
Yeah, I know what you mean. I think when I'm in the groove, I know where everything is, and I know my stuff by touch as far as the, if it's a curve or ruler or whatever,
Right.
usually it's right there. And if I had something around my table, my drawing table, it would be say a drawing table with maybe a small drawer system, on top of it for some of the flat stuff, just to keep it, sort of organized, but out of the way, really. I don't know. I guess that's just me. Maybe it's other people. What say you, Bob?
Well, like for me.
Go ahead, John.
Yeah,
or John.
Bob.
Go on, John.
No, I was saying, for me, having all those pins and stuff laying out might be too much visual confusion.
Really?
But then again, I have to wonder, just laying out on the table while I'm working. But then again, I also have to wonder how much time I would lose looking for pins, It kind of begs the question, do you set everything out beforehand, or do you run with inspiration, jump right in, and, grab things as you need them?
Right. Well, I'm sort of slightly organized, I need it as a visual. I have a good size art tub. You guys probably seen me toting it around to the shows. And it has some big drawers. And each drawer is broken down either by watercolors or, pastels, color pencils, and then the other big drawer is inking all the pens and the washes and the brushes and everything. And then there's a couple little things on top for penciling and erasers and stuff. This is my box that I tote everywhere I go. I went on vacation. This box went with me. I inked 3 pieces on vacation. So everywhere I go, this is like the family knows there's got to be a corner available for Dad's art box. Now, when that huge table we talked about set up, for some reason when I'm doing color work, I want to see everything I have available for me. So I have a shelf across the top of it, and I have all my Copics, my watercolors, my Copic airbrushes, my original airbrushes, my airbrush paints, my watercolor pencils, everything, because I'll be working on a piece. One of the last pieces I did was that Obi Kenobi for my brother Mike. Probably see me. I was just working on stuff, and I go, oh, what if I took that colored pencil and used disc wash and just experimenting with it. And I think that encourages me to try a lot of different things if it's all right there. Because if not, and I only had my Copics out, I would have just did a marker piece and that would have been done, and I would have walked away from it. No, I probably would have been happy. But by it not being there, I used gouaches and markers and colored pencils and Prismacolors, and I used all kinds of stuff on it. So visually, you'll see my art table will have all the markers and stuff around it, but then my stuff that I use probably the most is actually better organized into the art tub. I have no clue why. Every time I set up my art table, I set up my airbrush, and I probably haven't blown any paint through that thing in years. But there's something about having that traditional airbrush there that's comforting to me. Because I can really do the effects a whole lot easier on Photoshop. And there's no cleanup. So yeah, I don't know. And I've been playing around with the Copic airbrush, the way you put the markers in, you airbrush it for backgrounds and stuff. And that's cool, especially with Copic, because you can rebuild the markers. But yeah, I get to play around with probably a lot more tools than most people because I experiment with them, and then we decide if we're going to sell them over at Blue Line. So that's sort of fun too.
Right. How often does the stuff from your travel art stuff get in with your home art stuff, or is it all the same stuff?
It's all the same stuff. I have a 2-drawer cabinet that sits to the right of my art table when it's set up, and this box sits on top of that, so I can just pull the drawers out, and it's right there when I need it. So actually, it's sort of funny because night before last, I was inking some pieces, and I pulled out a bottle of ink, and I had very little ink, and I have none here at the house. Where in the past, all I had to do was walk out to the Blue Line store and grab a bottle of ink. So I was like, oh, crap. I got to grab some ink next time over at the offices. So I got to run out there tomorrow for a lunch meeting. So I had to grab me some bottles of inks. But yeah, it's all the same. I'll use the same quills, pens, brushes, whiteout. It's all in that box. So they're all the same ones I use all the time. I'm comfortable with. I usually don't travel with markers. I don't do colors out at shows and stuff like that. I don't know why. I
Right.
guess I'm not comfortable yet enough doing them. I might have to play with it a little bit and see. If I do, then I'll have to get another art box or carry some basic markers.
Yeah. What about you, Bill? Do you have a travel set of stuff, or do you take
no, I
art on
just
the
have.
boat at all?
Well, I don't anymore.
Right.
I mean, I carry the box, but sometimes,
Uh-huh.
but I may leave it in the car. More often, I'll leave it in the car because I won't do stuff at a show or whatever. So
Right.
I just don't. There's just too much going on for me to do that. But it's all the same. It's all and it looks like a big. Actually, I have a fishing tackle box that's bigger than that, and I may move everything into that, just everything into that. But I have some things sitting around my drawing table that just won't fit into the box, the art box. So it'll all be the same.
Right. Something we haven't talked about, and I get yelled at every once in a while, is paper. How to store your paper when you're not using it, especially when you buy it in bulk. And some things to remember is one, always leave it flat. Don't stand it up on its edges, either the long edge or short edge. It will curl on you. And two is leave it wrapped, because paper is like a sponge and it will suck up moisture. Will not cause you trouble so much on the penciling, but on the inking, when the paper sucks up the moisture, it will give you fits and cause it to spread. So always leave it bagged, or if it comes shrink wrapped, try to keep the shrink wrap or rebag it. It doesn't matter. Put it in a airtight container. I have some large 12 by 18 containers that I keep some of my Strathmore in. I know a lot of people don't think about it because they buy their Strathmore pads and that, and they're padded. They're not shrink. They're not bagged. They're not. But that paper sucks moisture. You gotta understand, Strathmore doesn't care. You bought their product. We're Blue Line. We bag it because we know you're not going to use all those pages in one setting or two settings. You're going to use them over time, and you want to try to keep it as dry as possible. So I've seen people use a hair dryer. So hey, maybe you need to add a hair dryer to your studio. Take a hair dryer, and Scott McDaniel is the first one I think I ever seen that do this, and take a hair dryer over the whole penciled piece to pull some of the moisture out of it before he inks it. And I've actually done that to some paper that's been laying around. That helps. So add a hair dryer to your studio, definitely.
There you go.
But other than that, yeah, set up your tools and your supplies and store them however best. Always clean them, but as you should know, if you're illustrators, except for your mouse, I guess, don't need to put it away.
Well, depending on the age of your mouse, you may have to clean that too if you're still rocking the old trackball. Yeah.
We had one at the office that's in the shipping department, and I had to clean it out the other day. I was laughing because I can't believe we're still using this thing. But cool, guys. I think we hit on a few things that might help some people on building a studio.
I think so, and if anybody can think of something that we might have missed, which potentially there may be a lot, make sure that you let us know.
Yep. Then email us at podcast@sketchmagazine.net.
That's correct.
John, you had some email?
I did have a couple of emails from a few of our listeners, and before I get into those, I want to thank everyone who listens, and especially all you folks that take the time to write us. First off, we got a thanks back from Yitzy Hayes for I ran his tutorial a couple of days ago. So he thanked us for that. He thanks for the mention on the podcast, and I mentioned to him a few things that he could work on to make his work even better, and he was very appreciative of that. Beyond that, I have a question that might be up you gentlemen's alley. We have a person named Kevin Dartery here. He says he loves Sketch Magazine and watches the posts daily. He's been reading them, listening, or watching for about 6 months, and he says his knowledge base on making comics has grown exponentially.
Awesome.
But what he needs to know is, he says, well, comics are made of various styles of lined artboard, but how are those lines used to format the comic page? He asked if I could find a video tutorial, which I haven't had a great deal of luck yet, but perhaps we can give him some verbal information on how that works out.
Okay. Oh, what does he mean by the lines? You mean the borders of the panels?
Perhaps, I think he's asking, you know how the blue line paper will come pre-bordered and with pre-indications of where to put panels?
Right. The standard.
I think he's asking how you use the borders of the paper, how you use, because there's a series of lines
Right.
on the paper. There's an outer line, an inner line. You have indications of potentially where to put other lines. I think what he's asking is how to go ahead and build a
Right.
page using that kind of
Okay.
paper. Uh, you might need to get sort of technical
I don't
and
think so.
put on your paper creation hat and go, okay, this line is this, that line is that, and go
Well,
from there.
a lot of people get confused with this, and I think they're just overthinking it. But on the borders, you have the copy box, which is the center box. That is what we call a safe area. Anything you definitely do not want to lose because either of a bad scan or a bad crop when it was stripped into the printing job should be safe. And if you only want to draw a traditional panel, a traditional 9-panel page or 6-panel page, and you don't want to do anything bleeding or trimmed off, just use that set of borders, the interior borders. That's it. Okay, now the trim came along once Marvel and DC decided that all these artists were drawing some really cool stuff and expanding it off the page. And then we had a lot of artists come in and ask us, we want this full trim, full bleed. We call it full trim, not bleed, page. That's when we created the one that has the copy area in the safe area in the middle, then it has a trim box. And you want to draw, if you want the image to be cut off, you want to draw up to and a little past that area. And the image will be cut off upon being stripped in or scanned, however you're going to be printed. As far as using the hash marks, it's really up to you if you want to use the hash marks as far as the panel layouts. Most people really sit down and rough up a page and they decide where the panels are going to fall, and not too often do they use the hash marks really. They might use the ones running up and down from top to bottom more than they use the ones going across the page, just to get 3 identical areas across a page. But yeah, I think a lot of people sort of get confused of the copy area, the safe area, and the trim area. And like I said, the copy area is just where you want to keep your balloons within your word balloons within that area. If you want it to bleed off, you need to extend your artwork. Yeah, we get asked that a ton in Blue Line.
Right.
It probably is going to be one of the earlier video tutorials that I create, is to show them exactly how to use it and then what it looks like reduced down to print.
Right. And that made me think of a question. If you're creating your own panels,
Yes.
I mean, probably someone who is just starting out might feel like they need to go safe and do, very regimented, the same size panels on every page or whatever. Right. How would you look at that? How would you address that? Is Is it wise to play it safe, or are you kind of shooting yourself artistically in the foot doing it
No,
that way?
I think every project, it depends on your project or what you're doing. If you're doing a traditional comic and you're wanting to stay traditional, one panel, four panel, six panel, nine panel, no, there's nothing wrong with that at all. It's more important that you tell a great story with your art, back it up with
Mhm.
well-written word balloons and information, than the layouts. If the layout is a standard 9-panel page layout, um, and you've got great artwork and great story, then nobody's going to care. It's what you designed. It's what you're telling. Um, if you want to take advantage of the trim and say the top half of this is this great big explosion and a fight scene, and it's all going off all three sides. Actually, it's going off all four sides, but then across the bottom, you want to drop in 3 traditional panels to move the story on. Use those 3 traditional panel hashes. Do it. It'll work for you. It's just there to speed things up. Most of that came back from the old days of studios cranking out books, and they wanted the hash marks there, so all they had to do is, this is 9-panel page. Boom, boom, boom. Here's 9-panel page. Drawing the pictures. And that's where it really came from. Some of the artists use it. Like I said, some of the artists might use 1 or 2 of the panels on a page, and the rest they create themselves. There's no right or wrong, and that's why I really try to tell people: draw what you want to
Right.
draw, write what you want to write. Use the page as a guide to keep you from not drawing all this detail off that's going to get cut off, or place that word balloon. And why it's so important, I know your word balloon 99% of the time nowadays is not going to be on that original artwork, but what that will show
Mhm.
you is don't get that head too close to the top of the board of your panel border so you can't fit a word balloon in there when you scan it. Move your figures down to allow enough room across the top of your panel or to the left or right of your panel to allow for word balloons. So always be thinking about that. So there's been a few times I've looked at boards and you could tell they didn't. They drew it. They spent a lot of time on it, but they didn't allow enough room for the word balloons to tell the story, and that's something you've really got to do.
Right.
And that's sort of where the safe area comes in on it. But yeah, I mean, they're there as a guide. They're not telling you this is the only way to do it. As a reader, as a fan of comics, I want to see great artwork. I want to read a great story.
Well, Bill, from an inker standpoint, how do you feel about formatting? I mean, do you get bored when you get 20 pages of 9 panels per page, or is that is that just par for the course?
No, it kind of depends. The first book I did with Bob was Dead Kid, and Joe Crony had done a lot of that in some places. Tom and Mary Beerbaum had worked with Keith Giffen, who really
Hmm.
utilized that a lot.
Yeah, I was
And
thinking of that.
some of my inking sample pages, which I got pencil stuff courtesy of Tom and Mary, long
Mm.
way back in the day, uh, are on my DeviantArt page. And for a while, it's fun. It actually, being small panels, boom, one was done. It was a sense of accomplishment to get one panel done, and then I could move on to
Right.
the next. So it was incremental. It was, to me. Now, to have a whole book like that, I don't know, to be honest. But I mean, really, I made so many different formats at this point. It really does. It's all comics, so it's all good for
Right.
me.
Right. Well, Bob was talking a lot about, a good story and stuff. I've never really asked you this before. When you are inking a page, are you even paying attention to the story, or are you, just very caught up in the actual mechanics of the artwork?
Well, it can be both. With, say, for Dead Kid, again, Tom and Mary would make a point to send me a copy of the script so that I knew what was
Right.
going on, because it would be lettered after I turned it in. And
Hmm.
I would read the script, and it would help explain some things, and it would bring some things out that may not have been. I mean, you can look at a panel and detail, but maybe you want to punch up a certain thing a little bit more.
Right.
So for me, it helped to know those details.
I know for me it helps to know what the story is, especially the emotions and stuff that's going on, because believe it or not, inkers aren't tracers. And
Right.
we do add shadows, texturing. We can add mood to a panel if we feel like it needs to be a little darker, or if we need to pick up a light source because of a time of day that the story's saying. So it really helps
Yeah.
to know what's going on in those panels. You don't really need to know exactly what the word balloons are going to be, but if you know what's going on, it helps some. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's true for colorists
Oh,
as
yeah.
well. It always helps to know at least basically what time of day you're looking at, what what the ambient light of any given area is. It's more than a little difficult to try to color something when you have no clue what's actually going on.
Oh, yeah.
Well, yeah, I've seen coloring samples off the same page. I think I was doing a portfolio review, and I think it was two friends, and they have both almost had picked two different times of day, so their lighting source was different. The sunlight was hitting in a different spot, so it brought out different things in each one. I'm not saying either one was right at that point, but because they were both decent colorists, but they had just had a different take because they didn't have a story to go with it. So now, had they had the script, they would probably have been more closely in line. But
right.
So no, it does help. I think you can.
All right.
I think you can have I don't think you can have too much information on that, really.
Right.
As far as that goes, so.
But you can definitely have too little.
Yes.
So.
Yes.
So thanks a lot, Kevin, for that question. I hope that helped, and I am still on the lookout for a video tutorial for you as well, or maybe we'll luck out and Bob will have his done soon. So the other piece of mail I got is from an artist named Ted Woods. He states that he's a comic book artist. Sadly, I haven't figured out what he works on yet, but I'm still looking for that. He does say that he will meet us at Detroit Fan Fair this Halloween when Bob and I show up there. And he's given us a link to his blog page where he does a number of tutorials. The blog itself is called Through the Artist's Eyes, and you can find it at tedwoodsart.blogspot.com. You can also find his work at our Dante Reader. That's what that says. DanteReader.deviantart.com. And from what I've seen of his work in the brief time I've had a chance to look at it, it's very impressive. So thanks for that piece of mail, Ted. That's all from my mailbag today.
What's going on over at the forums, Bill?
I mean, really, after the last couple of podcasts, I mean, somebody said, don't make them so long because there's so much good stuff that it's hard to keep up with all that, I guess. But it's been very positive, and like I said last week, each podcast has its own thread, so that's now 7, 8 different threads you can respond to and tell us what you think, good or bad. But it's a way to jump in there and start talking about the things, or ask questions about things that maybe we didn't cover, or something that sparks something in you that, hey, I never thought of that.
Cool.
So.
Sounds cool. And over on the blog, John, you've got a couple new posts.
Yep, indeed. Going in descending order, I have an interview with animator Chris Battle, who worked on Samurai Jack, Powerpuff Girls, Dexter's Laboratory. He originally worked for Hanna-Barbera Studios and then moved on to the newer, I can't remember the name of the studio that does all those, but it grew out of Hanna-Barbera. So he jumped over to that, and just an interview of how he got started, how he became a character designer and animator. So, just showing people the avenues that are open. It's not all about creating comics. There's a lot of potential avenues for people to display their artwork. Let's see, after that, I found a little tutorial on turning your sketch into a comics panel. Everybody sketches, doodles, even if you don't call yourself an artist. I dare say you have caught yourself doodling in the middle of a boring meeting or a boring phone call, or, hopefully not in the middle of a sketch podcast. But this tutorial tells you how to take your random sketch and add the specifics of the comic panel that will make it appear to be from a comic. So check that out. It's a lot easier to listen to than it is for me to explain it. I did find one, and it's not quite what our letter writer was looking for, but I did find one tutorial on how to create panels. It's not quite what he wanted, but as close as I got so far from the folks over at I Paint Girls. They're always definitely a good source for that. And this is mostly creating your panels in Photoshop, right. So not so much, hand on paper. Right. And then
something on that I just thought of.
Yeah.
Is if you, in sort of combination things, if you do a lot of sketches, especially if you're doing sketch layouts of your page, like you're doing different panels, which may be cool, is to have a template in Photoshop that's the same size as your art paper. Drop in your sketches for each panel, crop them, and rough them out into panels, and that's going to give you the size of your panels when you start to draw. One, it's going to keep a lot of draw lines and sketch lines off your original artwork. It's a sort of a pre-step up to doing your layouts. It might even be something that you print off and then you trace over onto your originals, onto your to your board. So yeah, I might have to try that.
That's a good idea. Let's see, how to draw comic style women. I can't, I try to throw at least one thing on drawing women in as often as I can, because it is the one thing that I see people messing up more often than anything else. They're people who are masters at drawing big muscular guys, gigantic robots, monsters, can't draw a woman to save their life. But women in comics are a necessary part.
Oh yeah.
Unless your comic is Land of the Dudes, you gotta have women in your comic, and are very specific skills to drawing women. So, I try to pop one of those in as often as I can, and I did that as well. On the fourth, that tutorial I mentioned from Yitzy Hayes, he's only 17. And with a few little touches here and there, I think he could potentially, be working for someone. So
sounds cool.
Yeah, I put his thing up, and I think that takes care of it, because we're back to drawing Anakin Skywalker after that. So I think that catches us up.
Sounds good. We're still working on the next art contest, right? We're going to go live with that. With the prizes we talked about, possibly like a rock band or something like that. We have some videos coming in.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll hammer out the details and post it on the forums.
Yeah.
We should have people draw us podcasting or something.
Yeah, right. And then guess what our studio looks like as we podcast.
As we podcast, yeah.
Cool. Wrapping up Sketch 40. It will be shipping next week. As always with this magazine, this issue is driving me crazy. every step forward I take, I get knocked back 15. But I was informed that it is rolling, so that's good. So, and we're right behind it. It's preparing 41, which is the Alex Ross issue. We don't have a set date. Our plan is from once 41 hits is to roll this out every 60 days. So we'll be announcing some interviews here in the future. You know what, Bill? I was thinking about it. I'm going to mention this guy's name right here. He's a friend of ours, Gary Barker.
Mm-hmm.
He was on Facebook the other night talking about how he was drawing Garfield strips, and he's been at Paul's. I think we need to do a feature on Gary. And we've known him for years and years. Done shows with him. The fact that he's back drawing the strips, and that he's worked in a studio atmosphere. But yeah, Gary's a great guy. So let's talk to Gary about getting him on.
Yep.
Schedule him up. See if he'd do it for us.
Gary is
Yes,
awesome.
he is. And I think he could share a lot. And that's what he does. He teaches too, correct?
Yes. Teaches at Ringling in
Right.
Florida. So
It's a very popular school.
Yes, it is.
From when I worked in the high school, we got some great stuff from them.
Really?
So. Oh yeah. They would regularly send us information on their college, and I'm like, wow, to be a teenager again with the ability to go to a school like that. That would definitely be a dream.
Right.
And speaking of teaching,
Yes.
Mr. Nichols, what is happening on the Comics Mentor this week?
last week I brought up the one post was choose one word that would sum you up now, and then the next day was what would sum you up for the future. What one word for change? What would you like to be? And then mostly it's just things about encouraging. Think about where you are now and where you want to be, and what would it take to get you there. That's basically the gist of the last few days. So there's more of that. I mean, I run into that a lot, and artists being the tortured souls that they are, some of them, including me, you just need encouragement, or you just need to take stock of where you are and, have a goal, have several goals and shoot for them. I mean, you don't have to hit every one, but have a plan to move forward with whatever project or the next step in your comics evolution or your writing evolution. Maybe you're, move on to children's books, say, or something. But that's pretty much what it is. It's moving forward and just being encouraging, the mentor that I am.
Yes, you are.
Yes. Artists are self-deprecating, you're saying? No. The devil uses
Some
it.
are. Some
The
are.
trick is try to produce something every day,
Right.
and we can't do it, but we try. And as long as you try to achieve that, then you're trying to move forward.
Yeah.
And every little thing you produce, whether it's a sketch on a napkin or it's a completed page, you are getting better. You are developing. You're working stuff out. Because of what recently changes in my work schedule, and I'm planning on doing a lot more artwork, I find myself doodling a lot more. I'm sitting in the living room with the kids and everything. I have a piece of envelope there. Ah, sucker, you're mine. And I'll doodle on back of that envelope, Every step forward is a completion of trying to get better and better. And you never know what becomes of it. But Bill, you've inspired me a few times in the past couple of years of moving businesses and everything, So, and we gotta get that new Comics Mentor logo up too.
Yeah.
Ooh, there's a new logo?
Yeah.
Yeah, Bob came up with one for me. I just have to figure out how to put it up.
Well, we'll talk about that.
Nice.
I'm still working on trying to get sketchmagazine.net. That seems to be my home right now. Updated. I threw some buttons on there the other day, and just getting it prepared for the weekly post and then the reviews and everything. It's just right now I'm still working out a lot of details, so I'm not being able to spend as much time as I like to, but it is on the schedule. It will be updated, and you guys need to contribute to it too. So, but yeah, that seems to be the place I'll be hanging out for the moment until more of the creative stuff is cranking.
Right. And anything new you'd like to add about Clay's Way?
Well, I have. Well, this is sort of the thing that I ran into this week. Last weekend the family was gone. I inked 5 strips, 2 posters, a podcast pinup. So I thought, yeah, we'll go live this week. Guess what? Life just put it all on the brakes.
Life
My
and truth.
wife came back from an outing with the boys at church camp, and she's sick. She's very sick. We spent half the day today at the doctor's and her getting a scan. So now she's on antibiotics and stuff like that. And so here I thought we would actually be live today with it. I haven't had a chance to color it or scan it. So there again, life gets in the way, but I will spend the time over the next few days getting it prepared and setting a launch date at that point. The concept is to be 2 to 3 weeks ahead on the strips. Jackie and I, we usually meet on Wednesdays, but because New Comic Book Day is Thursday this week because of the holiday, we'll be meeting tomorrow. And when we do that, we usually create a few strips, a few pinups, icon images, one icon images. Bill and I worked over the weekend on the community area of it. And Bill, my wife's going to go over that and make suggestions as far as categories and forums. And we know it.
Yeah, she'd be awesome at that.
And we know it. We'll be tweaking it as we go. But Jackie's going to create an image for that. And one thing about the community to me was, and building it, was this is a place to go and get information, get knowledge, share, and get security. So an idea I had was a shot of Clay, and Pan is an imaginary character. He's a big panda bear, but in real life, in real life on the strip, when Mom and Dad's around, he's a stuffed animal. So the concept was a waist-high shot of Clay squeezing the stuffed animal Pan for security blanket, and looking back at the reader, and there's like, come here and get your Pan, get your hug, and get information. That's what we're hoping to do with this community. There's nobody bankrolling that who wants to sell you an ad, who wants you to take their drugs. Nothing like that. This is a place to come and share. So Bill's been really helping me a lot because he ran the original sketch boards when they were Afterburn, and it's sort of, these are much more upgraded boards from that. It's going to be a lot of fun. But yeah, I'm looking. I had hoped to say, next week or this week. It's probably 2 weeks because these podcasts take time, and there's other commitments that now, because I ran short on this deadline, these other commitments got to come. And I truly want 2 or 3 weeks. So once we launch it, we don't miss any updates. I'm just like this podcast. Right. We've gone our way several times to make this podcast to make sure it hits on Monday. I might be Monday at 2 minutes to midnight, but it's hit on Monday, So, and that's important. And so, and yes, printing of the magazine will be that important also. Yeah, I know. Most people are going, well, why don't you get off your butt and get the actual magazine printed? There's a lot of factors that's involved in that and a lot of business. But
it takes time, children.
Taking on that on my shoulders again, and it will be out.
All right. So. And through the magic of podcasting, you saw us all this past weekend at the, well, not all of us, sadly. Mr. Nichols was unable to make it, but you saw Bob and I and the crew from Comic Related and many other people at the Champion City Con, and you found us delightful. But if you did not have the chance to come to the Champion City Con, please make every effort to come to the Cincinnati Comic Con, which will be on the 18th, which should be the Saturday after this podcast airs. So come and check it out. We'll be
all
there.
3 of us.
All 3 of us will be there. We will be in, around, or at least adjacent to the Blue Line, Skystorm Studios
Comic
tables.
Related's going to be there. So.
And Comic Related tables. We'll be somewhere in that general area. Just yell for us, and we'll turn around. And we'll be glad to talk to you, and you can let us know what you think of us, good or bad.
Hopefully good.
Hopefully good. As I said, you found us delightful, Champion City. You'll love us. to death
Cincinnati.
at Cincinnati Comic Con.
Yes. Okay, how do they get a hold of you, John?
Well, as always, the multiple ways. You can get a hold of me at john@sketchmagazine.net. You can get a hold of me at john@comicrelated.com. You can also go to the reply section of the Sketch Magazine blog and leave replies to the individual videos. Haven't gotten a lot of those yet. Would like to see some. So go check that out. Let me know what you like, what you don't like, what you would like to see, and hopefully I can accommodate you.
Cool.
That's it for me.
Bill?
Comicsmentor.com and also the comic related forum. I'm usually there, and I've gotten several contacts through that of just about the podcast and other stuff in general too. So it's a good place to hang out. So I do.
You can contact me over at bluelinepro.com. You can catch me on Facebook at Robert W. Hickey, or you can catch me over at Sketch Magazine for the moment, and claysway.com, hopefully within the next week or so.
Thanks again, everyone, and we'll see you next week.
Take care.